Central Indiana's economy flying high. A staggering $9 billion in investments in Indianapolis alone. We add it all up and look at what's next in our final IBJ Media Engage Indiana event in the state's capital. Plus, just what else was on the scoreboard to bring Live Golf to Westfield. We find out in a one-on-one conversation with the main driver behind Live, golf legend Greg Norman. And
my name is Etoile, and my 19-year-old son, John Michael, and his girlfriend, Rosalind, were killed by a drunk driver.
Meet an Indiana entrepreneur with a new device to prevent families from going through drunk driving tragedies like this. Inside Indiana Business is next.
From Indiana's business news leader, this is IBJ Media's Inside Indiana Business with Gerry Dick. Presented by Elevate Ventures and Indiana University.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gerry Dick, coming to you this week from downtown Indianapolis. This week, the 9th of 9 Engage Indiana events for 2024, hosted by IBJ Media, Inside Indiana Business, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. 500 people assembled at the Westin in downtown Indy for a discussion on challenges, opportunities facing the region, and there's plenty to talk about, to be sure. $9 billion in capital investment coming out of the ground in a resurgent downtown Indy. From the 38-story Signia by Hilton Hotel and expanded convention center to the sprawling Elanco corporate headquarters along the White River, to redevelopment, the long-awaited redevelopment of Circle Center Mall.
We often say that the health of a downtown can be felt with the number of cranes in the air, and that's certainly evident in downtown Indianapolis. We're seeing that truly in all four corners of the regional center, and with such a broad cross-section of projects that really speak to the vibrancy, the livability, the continued destination attraction that is downtown, as well as the undeniable reality that downtown is and will continue to be a hub for commerce and innovation.
We've been building, I think, at least since the Super Bowl in 2012, then the USA Today #1 convention city in 2014. Then you get to 2024 and all these things are happening, and people start going, hey, wait a second, is Indy the next big thing?
And investment is spreading throughout the region to the LEAP Innovation District in Boone County, where Eli Lilly and Company is investing $13.5 billion in a manufacturing campus. Meta has big plans there, too. In Fishers, a new arena is now open in an entertainment and commercial district with about $1 billion in real estate development around it. Noblesville has a new arena, too, that will be home of the Pacers G League team. And $45 million in State Ready 2.0 funding is fueling quality of life improvements throughout the region. And in Indianapolis and Marion County, there is a new model for economic development that is being led by a familiar face.
Jim Schellinger led the state's economic development efforts as Indiana's Secretary of Commerce from 2017 to 2021. Helping close deals, including Elanco's sprawling corporate campus, now under construction at the former GM stamping plant site along the White River. He says he's energized to lead Indy's new economic development effort.
Vision is going to be to build the most national and international economic development organization that is the most unique, the most advanced, and the most accomplished in America.
What was an economic development group inside the Indy Chamber becomes a standalone entity modeled after the public-private Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Schellinger says Indy Economic Development will cast a net far and wide.
We first have to take care of our businesses here in Indianapolis. You know, it's one of those things where those are the people that built this city, and those are the people that we have to pay first attention to. But, you know, starting to bring in some of that international flavor, some headquarters, and to do that, the most important thing will be working with Mario Rodriguez, our amazing director of the Indianapolis International Airport, because the international flights are critical to that.
Schellinger says he's already hatching some creative ways of engaging communities in the economic development game.
I had this vision that I just today share with the mayor, and we're going to contemplate it. But I like to piggyback on Regional Cities Initiative or Ready 2.0, and have some sort of competition like that for our neighborhood community centers. Because our neighborhood community, as goes the neighborhood community centers, as goes the neighborhood.
Well, coming your way next, why Live Golf chose Central Indiana to host one of its most important events of the 2025 season. We tee it up with Live CEO and golf legend Greg Norman when we come back.
Swings up and across it.
Well, he was one of the game's all-time great ball strikers. Greg Norman, one of the most dominant professional golfers to ever swing a club, is playing a key role in putting big-time golf on the map in Central Indiana. Norman is the founder of the Live Golf Tour, the rival to the PGA Tour, and he flew in his private jet to Westfield last week, and I sat down with him and asked him how Westfield and the club at Chatham Hills made the cut.
Live is coming to Chatham Hills, and they will be hosting their prestigious individual championship here in our city.
Norman calls Chatham Hills and Westfield a no-brainer for a stop on the 2025 Live Tour, the state's fastest-growing city, scoring high on an elaborate scorecard that Norman says is needed to pick places that can be long-term partners.
When we come to a destination, we take down 853 rooms, right? So you imagine the economic, from a tax standpoint and all that stuff, it has a mass, that's just us, right? Not bringing in the spectators and the sponsors and all that stuff.
Oh, Chase Koepka. Oh! There it is! There it is!
So when we identify the area where we truly think it's going to be a long-term partnership, and I use the word partnership in full sincerity, because that's what I look for, and making sure you do have partners into the future, because we want to invest. We bring $50 million every week of value into there. So we want to invest in that to maximize our return on that $50 million. So it's really a partnership with the developer, partnership with the golf club, partnership with the state, partnership with the county, the local mayor. Everybody just comes together on this deal. And a rising tide floats all boats. So our success is their success. So it really was important for me. And then adding the peat and Alice dye ingredient into it. Yeah, very, very passionate about those two guys. I still think about them a lot when I'm walking around the golf course.
While in Westfield, Norman got a look at millions of dollars in course enhancements at Chatham, which he emphasizes will not alter the course layout.
The characteristics and the quintessential peat dye design has not been changed one bit. And that's what I'm probably the most proud of, because you don't want to come in here as an architect to change another architect's philosophy about why he built the golf course and the style he built the golf course. So I've been very, very meticulous in making sure it's exactly, if Pete was standing there right beside me, this is exactly what Pete would want.
For 7, the par 5 short side in the bunker, and it's perfect.
As for the event, Norman says fans should be ready for golf and more.
So your day, if you're a spectator or a fan, when you come here, within 6 hours, you've had a hell of an experience, right? From watching golf to a fan experience, the fan village, to having a concert and going home.
Organizers say the economic impact of the Live Tour in Westfield next year could be as high as $29 million. The event runs August 15th through the 17th. Well, fast tracking now to another sports-related event, packing big dollars into the economy, the Performance Racing Industry Show in Indianapolis this week. It's one of the biggest conventions the city hosts each year. It's a who's who gathering from the world of motorsports. More than 67,000 vendors, track owners, manufacturers, just about every aspect of racing in Indy for the annual show, which has a $70 million economic impact on the region.
Tony Stewart, a native Hoosier, his dream comes true. Tony Stewart wins the All-State 400 at the Brickyard.
Well, Columbus, Indiana native Tony Stewart, one of the biggest names to ever get behind the wheel of a race car. The only driver to ever win a championship in both IndyCar and NASCAR. And that just scratches the surface of his achievements on the track. Stewart is now 53, married with a son, and Mary Rachel Redman caught up with him as he marks his 25th year in racing.
Well, Tony, time flies, and I can only assume it goes even faster for Speed Demon like you. Just talk about what it means to be behind the wheel of a car for 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, to have TSR and know going into next year it's going to be our 25th anniversary. I don't think there was ever a plan when we started the team that we thought, well, 25 years from now we're still going to be racing, still have a race team, but really proud.
From NASCAR to IndyCar, which series has meant the most to Tony over the years?
The challenges are different with all of them. I mean, it's hard to win in any form of motorsports or sports in general. There's always great franchises and great dynasties that are in each form of motorsports, and if you can be one of those people that upsets those dynasties and then creates one of your own, that's something that you're proud of. So every one of them are special.
Which is more gratifying, IndyCar or NASCAR?
You're still trying to trick me into this. I'm not going to play it.
There's a green light.
The 53-year-old motorsports legend made waves in the drag racing world this year as the NHRA Rookie of the Year. His coach, none other than two-time NHRA world champion Leah Pruitt, who just so happens to be his wife.
I'm so impressed, and I can't be, right? I don't want him getting a big head, but I have to tell him that he's doing a good job because he doesn't know what to base it off of. So I have been his driver coach this entire year, and I hope I don't have to teach anybody else because the bar is really high.
Stewart and his wife Leah welcomed a baby boy just 3 weeks ago. What does Tony think of fatherhood so far?
I'm enjoying it. It's I feel like to a certain degree it's a lot like having race cars. There's times race cars aren't happy too, and they're not exactly the way they need to be, and you have to make adjustments and tweak on them and fix them. And this little boy's the same. I mean, he's not always happy, but he's telling you he's not happy. You just have to figure out what it is.
How long do you think you're going to sit behind the wheel of a car?
I don't know. My dad's 86 years old, and I got to race against him twice this year in the 3/4 midgets. So if that gives you any indication, I'm going to be around a while.
The great Tony Stewart. Well, if you haven't already heard, Caitlin Clark got another feather in her cap for her extraordinary year on the basketball court. Time magazine naming the Indiana Fever Global Superstar its 2024 Athlete of the Year. Check this amazing picture of Caitlin on the cover of Time. Clark earning WNBA Rookie of the Year honors. This after setting the NCAA Division I women's basketball scoring record earlier in the year. Well, up next, sports tourism on Center Court in Southwest Indiana. How Evansville scored an ace in the world of professional pickleball.
Here's what's making news around Indiana. Brought to you by the Indiana Association of Realtors. Indiana's 21,000 realtors. The neighbors you know, the experts you can count on.
We begin with Indiana's military connection to fighter jets like this, and 2 pods attached to them used to disrupt air defense systems. Workers at Raytheon in Fort Wayne will play a big role in building the company's next generation jammer mid-band system. Raytheon landing a nearly $600 million contract from the U.S. Navy to produce the system, which allows crews to operate at extended ranges and attack multiple targets at the same time. Work on the jammer system will also be performed at 3 other Raytheon facilities across the country. Kokomo answering the need for people to live, work, and play. Developers breaking ground this week on a $110 million mixed-use district called The Hub. It's within walking distance of the $7.5 billion Stellantis Samsung EV battery plant, currently under construction, and close to Ivy Tech's Kokomo campus, which is a big plus.
Because Ivy Tech will be playing a vital role in the workforce training needed for the jobs and manufacturing in that area.
Mayor Moore says the hub is serving as a catalyst for future developments. He says up to 7 projects are in the pipeline in Kokomo. A new event from the Professional Pickleball Association is coming to Evansville. The PPA Challenger Series is expected to bring up to 700 people to Wesselman Park in September. Explore Evansville tells us this is part of their strategy to grow sports in the area and bring in future events.
I think it'll be a great highlight for our region going forward in terms of sports tourism. The part I'm most excited about is the amateur pro crossover. So amateurs will truly have a chance to play with some pro players. So it's going to be great competition. And I think it's a really unique and exciting event, especially for the city of Evansville.
Wesselman Park's 16 pickleball courts opened earlier this year and have already hosted a couple local tournaments. Well, let's send it back now to Gerry in downtown Indianapolis with what's making headlines in education news around Indiana.
Time now for our Eye on Education, brought to you by PNC
The IBJ
Bank.
Foundation has received a nearly $22 million Lilly Endowment Grant to help strengthen Indiana's early childhood education workforce. The money will allow Ivy Tech to expand its current programs while adding new education and training opportunities. The school has a goal of increasing its early childhood education program enrollment by more than 100% by 2027. Vincennes University's Board of Trustees has extended the contract of President Chuck Johnson by 1 year. Johnson's contract now extends through 2027. He's been leading the university since 2015. Trustees also approved spending $6.6 million on 9 airplanes for the school's aviation technology program.
Well, coming up next, what drunk drivers give away with their eyes and how an Indiana State police officer is using his instincts and innovation to help save lives.
Every 78 seconds, someone is killed or injured by an impaired driving crash.
A former police officer from northern Indiana has come up with a device that may push those drunk driving numbers down. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has the story.
Thanks, Gary. During his law enforcement days, Peter Zart patrolled for drunk drivers and is working to automate the most complicated part of the field sobriety test. Zart is now launching validation studies for the Night Rider. The device performs the nystagmus test for the officer, which is when the suspect tracks the officer's finger with their eyes. Zart just tested the device with police officers in Winnemac, where his startup Tippecanoe Tech is based. During the wet lab, volunteers were given just enough alcohol to surpass the legal limit. And the device produces a sliding light bar, and the built-in camera tracks when certain clues are present, such as the involuntary bouncing of the eyes.
Night Rider makes it easier to see the clues rather than doing it manually. As you're doing it manually, you have to remember movements, cadence, distance, what clue you saw in what eye, and by the way, be looking for the clues. With Night Rider, you just push the button and you can sit back and watch the clues come to you.
The device's video could also be used as evidence in court. Zart is now shipping one of the prototypes to a DUI unit in a major city for field trials. And Tippecanoe Tech is very close to closing its $500,000 pre-seed round. High demand for Eli Lilly's new obesity and diabetes drugs are sparking another investment for the pharmaceutical giant. Lilly will spend $3 billion to expand a Wisconsin plant that it acquired earlier this year, making it Lilly's single largest U.S. manufacturing investment outside of Indiana. Obesity treatment Zepbound and diabetes treatment Mounjaro have Lilly rapidly expanding its footprint to keep pace with booming sales. A new report says 4 rural hospitals in Indiana are at immediate risk of closing. The national study analyzed financial information from Medicare and Medicaid to find the financial health of each facility. Some of the most recent closures in Indiana were Dunn Hospital in Bedford and Fayette Regional Health in Connorsville. The 4 rural hospitals at immediate risk of closing are not identified by name in the report, which comes from the Center for Healthcare Quality and Payment Reform. The analysis shows 28% of Indiana's rural hospitals are operating at an overall loss. Let's send it back out to Gary in downtown Indianapolis to wrap things up for this week.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, as mentioned earlier in the show, this week was the 9th of 9 Engage Indiana events hosted by IBJ Media, Inside Indiana Business, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation in every corner of the state.
Welcome to our first Engage Indiana event of 2022.
The decision was made several years ago to expand the Engage series from what had been one event to a statewide series of events. Regional discussions with business, community, and academic leaders on challenges, opportunities, and what's next. In April of 2022, before a crowd of more than 350 at the Old National Events Plaza in Evansville, the statewide series was launched, and it was clear from the passion and pride in that room, the Engage series would quickly gain traction.
There is so much here that we take for granted.
You know, I hear sometimes people say, I just live in Evansville. I'm like, erase that just. I live in Evansville. You know, an amazing place, an amazing community with phenomenal people contributing to us.
The Engage series has attracted nearly 10,000 attendees and thought leadership from around the state: Evansville, Jeffersonville, Terre Haute, Lafayette, West Lafayette, Muncie, South Bend, Fort Wayne, Valparaiso, and here in Indianapolis.
The Engage series is really an opportunity for state leaders and local leaders within each of our regions to have a conversation and to better understand the goals of a particular region, the goals of the state, and figure out where those mesh and how they can work together better. So we've seen great success in terms of that engagement. We've learned a ton about what are the factors that are helping certain regions advance. We take that information and share it with other regions in terms of what the successes look like. So it's been incredibly successful.
And plans are in the works now for next year's Engage Indiana series. Stay tuned for details on dates and locations. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's show. Thanks for joining us. As we leave you this week, some holiday cheer from Santa Claus, Indiana. I'm Gerry Dick. Thanks for joining us. Go out and make it a successful week.
Thank you for listening to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can get the latest business news from every corner of the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gerry Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.